Good morning, everyone. We are about to start. So if there's anyone still outside, we call on you to please find your way inside. We want to start on time at 9. So please, if we could. Good morning once again. Good morning once again. I'm just giving those running around the Mwepis of this world an opportunity to settle down. Good morning and welcome to our first physical AGM after the visit from Uncle COVID. We have, of course, grabbed the opportunity to come out of hibernation. We were hidden in our homes, and when I spoke to some of my staff, they've been telling me that they've been enjoying working next to the fridge during that particular period. To our special guest, Dr. Thandi Mkwebi of the Nelson Mandela University, our members of the Accounting Authority, of the merSETA, and subcommittee members, Chairperson of the merSETA Accounting Authority, Ms. Kate Moloto, representatives of the merSETA sector, that includes employers as well as organized labor, distinguished guests, colleagues, and dare I say, friends. My name is Wayne Adams, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the merSETA. Welcome to the National Annual General Meeting of the merSETA. In line with the organization's Digital First strategy, today's meeting is a hybrid version. We are combining the best of two worlds, both the physical and the digital. Those present here today will have the same experience as those around the country who are being patched in via our live streaming. During this meeting, virtual attendees will be able to see our guests at this venue from time to time through seamless streaming. Welcome to the merSETA's digital experience. Also, if you have questions during the presentations, please send them via our chat option, our social media, and our dedicated email as displayed. And for those with connectivity issues, please cut the video link, as your bandwidth might be an issue in certain parts of our country. We trust that you all will enjoy this meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, this year the merSETA received its 22nd unqualified audit report from the Auditor-General of South Africa. This is no mean feat, considering that the audit was undertaken while the merSETA was in the throes of moving its head office in Johannesburg. Our Chief Financial Officer will speak more on our unqualified audit report. Ladies and gentlemen, I now call upon the merSETA Chairperson, Ms. Kate Moloto, to officially open our AGM. Ms. Moloto is the CEO of Moloto BE, an accredited BE verification agency, as well as Moloto Solutions, an empowerment and governance consultancy. She's also an investment advisor to Axio Capital, a private fund, equity fund manager. Ms. Moloto has held several senior strategic positions. These include being an executive on the Information and Transformation Task Team of the Development Bank of South Africa, the CEO of Untika, which is now called SETA, and the project manager of the Mafisa microfinance scheme. Her areas of interest and specialization are triple BEE, verification and consulting, financial services, financial management, corporate governance, auditing, and skills development. Ms. Maloto was the immediate former chairperson of the Association of BE Professionals, the industry body for verification professionals, and is now a member of the technical committee. She is a former board member of the Services SETA, where she served as chairperson of the Transformation and Finance Committee and the Entrepreneurship Task Team. She was also a member of the Audit Committee. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our chair, Ms. Kate Maloto.
Thank you, Wayne. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Accounting Authority, I thank you all for your time and presence today. I also welcome those who are being patched in via our live streaming service. Your participation throughout the country is proof of your strong commitment to the development of skills, and really the fact that we are family and we are not the only ones that were missing you. It looks like you missed us as well, because we catered for about 170 people, and we are oversubscribed with 240 of you. That we appreciate and are grateful for. Ladies and gentlemen, impressive trends in economic activity emerged in the 21-22 financial year as the manufacturing, engineering, and related sectors rallied from the sudden shock of the COVID-19 pandemic in the previous financial year. Official statistics show the GDP grew by 4.9% in 2021, following a sharp 6.4% contraction in 2020. But our country remains resilient. This rise in economic activity is reflected in merSETA's revenue. Levy income rose by a whopping 54% in the year under review, compared to the dramatic drop due to the 4-month levy holiday that ran from May to August 2020. SETAs, as Schedule 3A public entities, are crucial in helping government implement its policy agenda through skills development to, amongst others, ease unemployment. In this regard, the Finance Minister's announced increase in the employment tax incentive values for companies from 1 March 22 is welcomed. This business tax benefit encourages employers to hire more young workers by reducing the overall PAYE contribution without affecting individual employee wages. Employers receive the incentive if they hire between 18 and 29 staff that are between 18 and 29 years old. And the incentive also applies when an employer and employee have entered into a learning program as defined. Just the many number of ways that government is trying to assist to grow the numbers of youth that are employed. The merSETA is also encouraged by the latest version of the critical skills list, which was published in February this year. This list allows SETAs to further streamline interventions to enable a highly skilled workforce. The new critical skills list comes after a consultation process with industry and labor, and so we thank you all for your participation, your enthusiastic participation, which is borne out by the quality of the document. In the course of the past financial year, the steel and automotive master plans laid a solid foundation for the industry to re-energize through localization. We welcome the enthusiastic response from stakeholders to the two policy initiatives. Our country's economy was, however, shaken by the July 2021 civil unrest in KZN and Gauteng, a cyber attack on Transnet, the major logistic provider for the merSETA, a 3-week strike in the steel and engineering sector, record fuel prices, and the first interest rate increase in 3 years. Yet, as our CFO will hopefully prove to you better, our economy and our sector in particular, or sectors, remain resilient. Strategic relationships, on strategic relationships rather, our strategic relationships in the period under review were linked to the National Skills Development Plan, NSDP, partnerships with labor, industry, and state organs or enterprises are the vehicle through which the merSETA is able to fulfill its mandate. All partnerships were aligned to national priorities of development and transformation to address social and economic demands. The merSETA continues its agreements with higher education institutions and TVETs, government departments and their entities, civil society, labor, as well as employers in the sector. In the year under review, the merSETA aligned its skills development strategy with government's Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan, ERRP. This is something that we take a lot of pride in. I believe we really got stuck in and made sure we understand what government is trying to achieve and put our best efforts into supporting it. As you know, it came off a consultative process run through the presidency and parceling out, tasks to various departments. And we have tried to tick off on every block that we have been allocated in that regard. This means our focus now on our focus is now on reskilling workers to enable access to jobs and to take up opportunities in lateral and changing careers. We are also upskilling and multi-skilling workers to enable them to remain in their jobs while ensuring that skills can be transferred across sectors, especially to communities, townships, and rural economies. Special attention is being placed on the youth, women, and vulnerable groups, particularly people with disabilities. These target groups, as you know, are a challenge, but we do force ourselves to ensure that we follow through and try and support everything that comes our way that is worth looking into. With regards to the new world of work, we are funding skills in new technologies and diverse product manufacturing. This includes recognition of micro-credentials. A key strategic output is supporting entrepreneurship in manufacturing and social entrepreneurship within townships and rural economies. Also, the merSETA's focus on skills in the green and circular economies, given the widespread load shedding in recent years, means new forms of learner support will come to the fore. The green and circular economies within the merSETAs form key interventions in our development of rural and township economies. And this means exploring the new forms of learner support needed for new methods of teaching and learning. Crucial to these economies, the green and circular, is our research on simulated and virtual factories for learning and quick onboarding of related recommendations to assist with transition to work in the absence of a workplace. As I said, we have proven resilient as a sector, and we remain amazed at the revenues that we have recorded. I remember when I first saw the numbers, I had to ask the CFO whether I'm reading correctly or something is miswritten. However, this is not matched by the number of workplaces where people can train. This was a problem before COVID that has simply been exacerbated further during the intense period of the outbreak, but we have not been able to catch up on that. So we really urge our employers to take hands and assist, and while we cajoling and all that, we doing our best to do this simulation. Going forward, the merSETA organizational structure is undergoing a review to create a one-stop shop for the core business of the entity. I thought you will clap for yourself there. We hope we get it right, because everyone talks one-stop shop. We know we are late in even starting in it, but I'm sure you'll be happy to hear we are finally taking this bull by the horn. Stakeholders must be able to walk into a merSETA center and get a full set of service, no excuses. Sluggish in terms of the challenges that we continue to face. We don't want to excuse it, but we do believe that any gathering of this nature, without touching on them as a reminder of the impediments that keep holding us back, the sluggish economic growth will remain a challenge in the near future, with government estimating a rise in GDP by 2.1% in 2022-23. I meant to check whether this was before stage 6. I think these numbers were before stage 6, which means they have worsened in the interim. So this is a big problem that we are all facing. The pervading effects of COVID-19 and its mutations will continue to hamper local and global economies, while climate changes, as we have seen in KZN in particular, and its impact on communities will have to be confronted in a way that doesn't impact on our deep industrialization plans and projects. Therefore, the merSETA's focus on the green, blue, and circular economies will be critical to training for jobs for the future, and our country's economy, however, remains resilient. Now for some tributes. Ladies and gentlemen, a sad one. The Accounting Authority wishes to pay tribute to a member of the AA, Mr. Johan van Niekerk, and a former member of the Audit and Risk Committee, Mr. Colin Ngiki, who we lost during the pandemic during the year under review. We would also like to thank Ms. Jani Esterhazen, who retired from the Accounting Authority in the year under review. Her service was most profound. For those who know, she was one of the two deputies until she retired. We take this opportunity of welcoming Mr. Neil Rademan, who was appointed to our board in 2021. I thank all members of the Accounting Authority, the chamber committees, the merSETA staff and stakeholders for their valued support and engagement in the 2021-22 financial year. I thank you. It now gives me great pleasure to hand proceedings back to Mr. Adams for the operational side of the merSETA in this past financial year. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back Mr. Adams.
Thank you, Chairperson. May I also recognize this morning one of our previous Deputy Chairpersons of the Accounting Authority, Mr. Kolani Chayana. Thank you all the way from PE. Thank you for joining us this morning. Once again, appreciation, Chair, for your address. The stresses and strains of high unemployment in a struggling economy and the effects of the startling COVID-19 pandemic are still staring down South Africa's education and training sphere despite bright spurs in our sector. The phased lifting of the national state of disaster saw the merSETA gradually grow as international companies, particularly in the automotive and related industries, invested billions in new production lines. After a dismal 2020, economic activities increased by 4.9% in 2021. Statistics SA reported, that's what they reported. This raised the bar for renewed post-school education and training compared to the previous year. Mining, agriculture, and manufacturing recorded the highest growth rates in 2021, with finance, personal services, and manufacturing the largest positive contributors to overall growth. Vehicle exports, a key driver of economic activities, reflected a gain of 8.8% compared to 2020, while a 2.8% rise in manufacturing output was mainly driven by the production of petroleum, chemicals, and plastic products. Before COVID-19 drastically slowed vehicle demand and production, the South African motor industry, a key stakeholder of the merSETA, was responsible for nearly 7% of GDP. Business intelligence points to a close correlation between new vehicle sales production and the overall performance of our economy. In the last quarter of 2021-22 financial year, an automotive manufacturer announced an astounding 15.8 billion investment in their plants, both in Gauteng and the Eastern Cape. This investment is further testimony to South Africa's ideal of being a green economy, as the auto manufacturer plant outside Tshwane will become entirely energy self-sufficient and carbon neutral by 2024. Apart from the 1,200 direct jobs, the investment will also create an estimated 10,000 new jobs across the manufacturer's local supply network. Already about 4,000 jobs have been created by a new harness manufacturer in KZN, which provided this equipment to the auto sector. This is a clear indication, as our chairperson has pointed out, that our economy indeed is resilient and inspires confidence. And I think it's important. I was fortunate with one of our accounting authority members to visit the opening of this new plant. 4,000 new jobs have been created during this particular period. Cameron. During the period under review, the merSETA's learnership, apprentices, and trainee registrations and throughput rates showed that 8,293 learnerships, artisans, and ARPL candidates were funded by the merSETA. This amounted to more than 250 million, with a further 3 billion in committed reserves for past, present, and future candidates. While we cannot force companies to transform internally, we can insist that our funding is geared towards achieving transformation targets. So in the last financial year, 30% of all trainees were females. 91% of targeted groups were black, as defined by the employment legislation. This increasingly reflects the demographics profile of our country, in particular with regard to female empowerment. I cannot stress this enough. It's a mandate that we believe in and act on. On 1st February 2022, the merSETA opened its funding window, which closed on the 31st of April 2022. We are yet to finalize the successful application numbers, but we are confident of a return that equals, if not surpasses, previous years. Our retrenchee assistance program and the temporary employee relief scheme saw the merSETA contribute more than 12 million rand. For apprentice trainees, the merSETA again provided stipend support to mitigate the impact of funded learner retrenchment. I think the remnants of COVID is still present with us. We also continue to the lockdown training agreements with the National Association of Automotive Components and Allied Manufacturers, PLESFED, and the National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa for the second year. These agreements are aimed at boosting training in small, medium, and micro enterprises in our sector. A unique project arises out of the pandemic was a partnership between merSETA and several tertiary institutions to develop local technology for ventilators. This project, which funded innovation in the design, prototyping, testing, and certification of airway pressure ventilators, closed in March 2022. 9 teams presented their proposals before a potential investment panel. You have heard of the Dragon Dance television program. This was our version of the Dragon Dance concept, allowing them to pitch their proposals to potential investors. The teams came from the merSETA-funded partnerships between the University of Cape Town, University of Johannesburg, the Tshwane University of Technology, the Central University of Technology, the Vaal University of Technology, and Northwest University. The Nelson Mandela University also received funding for the ventilator initiative. In the 2021-2022 year, the merSETA maintained 6 active partnerships with the various offices of the premiers, as well as with 16 universities and 30 TVET colleges. The merSETA's target for support of cooperatives was 20 for the year under review. Funding, however, was only granted to 4. The organization is still leading SETAs in the Centers of Specialization project under the Department of Higher Education and Training. In the year under review, the merSETA had 336 participating apprentices in the course Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3 project. Focusing on 4IR, the merSETA has started funding the development of 4IR skills development centers at 10 TVET colleges. The project is a public-private partnership initiative with the merSETA and Festo. The project has kicked off with 6 TVET colleges. The 4IR skill centers will be used to offer training in future skills, which will later be infused into curricula. Through this, we established and equipped a center at a selected college with 4IR equipment and tools. This will link to the development and introduction of curricula that will create awareness for high-level training, introduce management subjects around 4IR, and create 4IR applications and practices. This project will also train 80% of identified TVET staff on the 4th Industrial Revolution. The project will develop at least 2 trainers per TVET on hands-on training to become master trainers for Industry 4.0 while equipping the TVETs with 4IR lab equipment. The centers will be equipped with the solution and features in bionics and microcontrollers, as well as automation technology, such as fluid power, sensor technology, digitalization, and programmable logic controllers, PLC programming. Ladies and gentlemen, the post-school education and training cloud project, now I must remember, Operation Petogo, is well in gear. This advocates a data-centric approach through interoperability amongst the PSET institutions and systems. This will synchronize the TVET projects and 4IR innovations through a seamless data sharing amongst institutions and learners. This data ecosystem will provide wider choices for South African citizens to make informed career decisions that lead to employment. In line with this, the merSETA has embarked on an organizational transformation initiative, Operation Transformer, that's what we call it. The purpose is to create an agile merSETA structure with the adoption of best practice towards a digital-first operation. An intensive consultation process with staff and the union representatives was launched in the year under review and will continue in the following financial year. A project steering committee representing all internal stakeholders is a key point for this consultative process. Operation Transformer will be implemented when the accounting authority gives us the blessing. The merSETA's revenue is on a sound footing and is close to 1.5 billion, which follows the end of a levy holiday implemented by government in the prior year. Despite staggered COVID-19 regulations, the merSETA evaluated applications and awarded discretionary grants valued at more than 1.7 billion in the year under review from an application base of 6.7 billion. So it seems that there's a huge demand, and it's difficult for us to meet that demand. Chayana, as you know, normally during this period, I have to wear bulletproof vests in case one of the stakeholders did not get what they've asked for. So I'm not as yet going to put that bulletproof vest away. Our primary focus is on initiatives that contribute to the sustainability, growth, and profitability of grant recipients and industries within our sector. Again, the bulk of discretionary grants was disbursed for artisan training and learnerships. These two interventions accounts for 75% of our discretionary grant budget. I am proud to announce that for the first time ever, the merSETA paid over 1.1 billion in mandatory and discretionary grants. We have paid more than I need an applause. I'm not going anywhere until I get it. 1.1 billion for the first time in discretionary grants. And of course, we hope to continue in that fashion. Regarding mandatory grants, the merSETA approved 3,672 companies amounting to about 243 million. We are in the process of testing the first phase of the NSDMS 2.0 system. Load shedding, high unemployment, and potential higher interest rates will remain areas of great concern in 2022 as they place constraints on companies' productive capacity. This is despite the huge vote of confidence the major automotive players signaled by directly investing in the merSETA. These investments place a greater onus on the merSETA to provide funding for 4IR skills for the end of the internal combustion engine as well as smart manufacturing. Skills development is the most critical aspect for a resilient economy. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Now, both the Chair and I referred to the finances of the merSETA in our presentations. I now call upon the CFO, Ms. Disa Mpande, to provide details of our finances for the 2021-2022 financial year. May I call on you to please welcome our CFO, Ms. Mpande.
Good, very short. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And I see a few comrades. It's that season. So I need to recognize my comrades this morning. It's good to see a lot of familiar faces. This is my 6th annual general meeting presentation at merSETA. And I am very proud to come and announce these outstanding results, including our audit outcome. I'm sure my people are confused because it's not in the script. So it is a pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to come and stand before you this morning, to come and present to you our performance, position, and cash flow for merSETA. It is with honor that I present the annual financial statements for the financial year that ended on 31 March 2022. Taking a snapshot of our performance, it is clear that the year 2021-22 was a generally difficult one for South Africa's economy, and it was equally difficult for the merSETA. The COVID-19 pandemic and South Africa's efforts to contain the COVID-19 have had a considerable impact on the economic activities in the country. Since the beginning of the pandemic, like many other countries, South Africa imposed varying restrictions in response to the pandemic. These restrictions are evident on our performance. The COVID-19 pandemic and its associated restrictions on economic activity have placed further strain on an economy that was already not performing well. These underlying reasons for the poor performance of the economy pre-pandemic already are unlikely to be resolved in the short term and are also likely to impact the country's ability to recover from its COVID-induced economic shocks. Now, looking at merSETA specific, the CEO has already announced that we have we received levies of about 1.4 billion rands in the last financial year. If you remember, ladies and gentlemen, when COVID hit 2020-21, there was the restriction, the levy income holiday for 4 months. So it impacted our levy income. So in that financial year, we came and we reported that for the first time I think in 6 or 7 years, we had received levies that were below 1 billion rands. So in the last financial year, we received 924 million. So we see a small recovery because we received 1.4 billion, but it is still not, in the last financial year, we have still not achieved our pre-COVID levy income levels. Just to give you an indication, in 2019-20, our levy income was 1.46 billion. And in 2020-21, this is our new standard. The chair will make sure that we do not do anything lower than that. So hopefully in 3 years, we'll come here and say we've paid over 2 billion. But in the last financial year, mandatory grants, we paid 246 million rands, which was up from the last financial year. Last financial year, we had paid 169 million rands. The claims ratio had reduced in this financial year. As you may be aware, because most of our stakeholders are aware that we had some challenges with an acronym I don't want to mention. It gives people a few nightmares, but I have to, the NSDMS. Say it quickly, NSDMS. So it caused a few challenges for us. Our claims ratio this financial year was 66%. Discretionary grants increased by 8.3% to about 880 million. So if you add those two, we were at 1.1 billion. Most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, I am proud to announce that the merSETA has achieved yet another unqualified audit opinion. This is an achievement which we have consistently earned in the past 22 years. And I should announce that we earn it without sweat because our internal controls are sound. So it is like our nature to just make sure that we do things the right way. I now draw your attention to the details of the financial performance. As I mentioned, the merSETA's levy income, if you see those nice graphs there, the blue is indicating what we actually achieved. As you can see, it's a dwarf. It's just below 1 billion, as I've mentioned, and then the gray is what we have achieved in this financial year. We have achieved just as we had budgeted, so that is good news. Levies that have been received from companies whose annual payroll costs are below the threshold of 500,000 rands have been excluded from the levy income and recorded as debtors in anticipation of SARS refunding these monies. Penalties and interest on levies for this current financial year were 20.2 million rands compared to 22.3 million rands in the prior year. Net gains from financial instruments represent interest received from cash and cash equivalents. Most of the cash is held in fixed notice deposits. So as you'll see, when we issue our annual report, we've got cash of 4.6 billion rand sitting in our bank accounts. That's a lot of money. But it is committed. I think I'll get that we've also signed MOUs, so about 90% of that is committed. So while we wait for these commitments to be realized, we keep it, well, we were keeping it with the banks. We're keeping it with Absa, Nedbank, Standard Bank, and the blue one. No, the blue Standard Bank. So I think if you are in the public sector, you are aware that National Treasury issued an instruction in September that all monies must be now banked with the CPD. But you won't see it in these financial statements because most of our monies were still held up with these 4 banks. But as soon as the funds matured, we started transferring with the CPD. So when I come back here next year, and I will come back, CEO, don't worry, to pay that 2 billion, I will be reporting that all our money is with the CPD. It's good for the economy, but we're not sure about the interest rates we're earning there. Interest received was much lower in the current financial year. As you are aware that the Reserve Bank kept on reducing in the last financial to respond to COVID, our interest rates. So as they as they reduce, it means also the interest that we earn is reduced. So we couldn't budget properly for that. So it was much lower than what we had received in the last financial year. The returns on cash and cash equivalents for the current year was an average of 4.6% compared to 5.9% in the prior year. Looking at our expenses, mandatory grant payments were made throughout the year and amounted to 246 million rands, as mentioned, an increase from 169 million rands in the previous financial year. DGs amounted to 883 million and showing an increase of 8.3% over the prior year. Administration costs, that as you are aware that we are limited, we can't pay over 10%, but we need to pay 0.5 to QCTO. So whatever levy income we receive, we need to pay 10.5% towards administration costs. So in the last financial year, we paid about 182 million rands in administration compared to about 174 million rands in the last financial year. Looking at a 5-year income trend, as you can see that graph dipping there, that's the impact of the levy income holiday. As you can see, if you look from 2017-18, we had gone up, I think we were on about 1.3, we were over 1.4, and then we dipped in 2020-21 to receiving levy income of about 920, and now as you can see, that graph is what we're saying, we're going back to those pre-COVID levels. We observe, this, yeah, I think I've said this, Cameron, thank you. This was a result of the 4-month levy income holiday in the prior year. The expense graph illustrates a steady and continuous growth in mandatory grants. Mandatory grants expenditure in the last 3 years, this being in line with the levy income growth. Employer participation, I thought I should bring also the prior year one, the biggest one contributing being the metal chamber at 55%. As you can see in the last financial year, it was 57%. We also appreciate all other employers. I'm just mentioning the big one in the pie. There were 14,182 contributing employers in 21-22 compared to 13,619 in the last financial year. The financial position of the merSETA remains solvent and sound. The cash and cash equivalent balances are the largest assets, comprising mostly of DG reserves, which are committed to Accounting Authority-approved projects and training initiatives. A total of 4.8 billion rands of the cash in the bank and investments relates to contractually committed funds, with the balance to cover the current liabilities. Cash surpluses were invested according to the approved investment policy across those 4 institutions, as I mentioned, but we have since changed our policy now to indicate that our money will go to the CPD. The largest liability, being grants payables, relates to training that has been completed, pending a further verification process that leads to disbursements of funds. The balance also includes a provision for SARS refunds on levies received from employers whose payrolls are below the threshold. The grants reserves are 89% committed. The largest reserves are mainly due to the long-term nature of our programs. Some of them are up to 4 years, the MOUs that we signed with our stakeholders. Now, if you look at the statement of changes in net assets, it shows an increase of 334 million rands in reserves and the allocation of such funds. At the close of the year, a total of 115 million rands of additional surpluses for mandatory grants and administration expenses was swept to the DG reserves. DG means discretionary grants. The amount retained in the employer grant reserve is a mandatory grant provision for newly registered companies participating after the cut-off date. Now, looking at our cash flow, net cash flow from operating activities amounted to 382 million rands, and cash equivalents totaled 4.8 billion rands. Looking at a snapshot of the Auditor-General's report, the merSETA, as mentioned, was issued with yet another unqualified audit opinion, an achievement we are proud of. As an organization, we remain committed to ensuring progressive and sustainable improvements in audit outcomes. And therefore, strengthening internal controls is a key focus, not just for us as management, also for the Accounting Authority. We have to report on a quarterly basis on what we plan to do with whatever AG picks up in any audit year. Not that they pick up anything, there's nothing to pick up. Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, the merSETA has been hard to continuously improve the National Skills Development Management System, the NSDMS. Yes. We'd like to bring to your attention that we know the challenges we are experiencing and we understand your frustration, but we are also, we've also identified some gaps and in the current NSDMS, and we have gathered additional requirements to address the current challenges. On a positive note, the skills and finance modules are stable, and we have successfully received grant applications and processed mandatory grant payments. In addition, we have unbundled the discretionary grant applications from the mandatory grants applications, and we have successfully used the projects module for the additional grants windows, which in the past were manual. We are continuously striving to improve the features and performance of the NSDMS, and your continued feedback is highly appreciated. We have initiated the process to implement corrective maintenance and enhancements to the NSDMS. We now have a NSDMS 2.0. Does feel like NSDMS 100, but it's still 2. The primary objective is to correct the known problems and ensure that the merSETA is able to meet its compliance and legislative reporting and stakeholder requirements. Your continued patience, ladies and gentlemen, as we resolve these remaining challenges and make enhancements is highly appreciated. With that, I thank you.
Thank you, CFO. I'm just worried because you've said without any sweat. Now, I don't know, is it because you have a nice boss? Because I've been sweating. I have been sweating. So perhaps my boss should also start to be nice so that I don't have to sweat as much to get towards a unqualified audit. Thank you once again, CFO. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to open the floor for questions, and hopefully we will have the answers. As this is a hybrid meeting, we will have questions from the floor, as well as via our live streaming channels. So I just want to lay down a few protocols. If there is a question from the floor, please raise your hand, and one of our colleagues will assist you with a microphone. If you are linked via Zoom, our Zoom live stream, please click on the chat icon, and it will open up your chat option. You can then type your question in and send it. We have someone who will be looking at those questions and feed them through to us. This session will last about 30 minutes and should relate where possible to the presentations of this morning. In case we are not in a position to answer your questions today, I'm quite sure there will be much more questions than the time allowed. We will most certainly will come back to you, particularly those questions that comes via the chat line. We have also have an email, and the email was displayed earlier for your further convenience. So please, if need be, you could use that as well as a means to raise your questions. And as I said, what we can't answer today, we will deal with within the coming week. As indicated, I'm taking off my watch now. We're going to allow for about 30 minutes for questions. And I'm quite sure my colleagues will assist in answering those questions. You see, this is the advantage now of having the microphone and standing here. I'm going to practice my delegation skills this morning, particularly with regards to those difficult questions that may come my way. So please, ladies and gentlemen, the floor is open for any questions or comments, not just questions. I mean, if you want to make some comments, you are welcome to do so. Right at the back, I'm not sure who's dealing with I think what we will try and do is to take 3 questions at a time, and then of course get a response. And thereafter, we will have the next 3 questions. There's another hand in front. Can we start with you, ma'am? Can you just introduce yourself and raise your question, please? No higher grade questions. No higher grade questions.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Nomsanko Monde. I'm working as the SDF for my company. I'm happy to hear that the financial controls of the merSETA are sound. But then I have a concern because I keep receiving emails from the financial department of the merSETA, I think Lindiwe, specifically to say your company owes something like 105,000 in mandatory grants. As the SDF, I'm asking myself, how come? Because I'm very much sure that I submit on an annual basis. So my response has been, okay, I do understand the company could be owing, but give me the proof, give me the evidence, because how do I go then to my own finance department to say, merSETA says we are owing this amount? I've received this in August, but I keep receiving it Because even yesterday, I have received such evidence as well. I have also spoken to my CLO about it, but I do not get an answer. So that's my concern. Thank you.
Thank you, CFO. I'm sure you've noted that question. I think my immediate response would be, please just pay the debt. But I think there is an explanation that the CFO will provide. There's a gentleman in front. I don't know. Has he got a mic? Please, sir. I recognize you.
Good morning. My name is Daniel from TOHS Consulting, and I'm a SDF there. So firstly, I would like to congratulate the organization on achieving unqualified audit. It's a job well done. And my question now is, what are the common issues that the approval desk come across in terms of having to decline some of the applications that comes across? Thank you.
Ms. Novete, I hope you've noted that one. The gentleman just behind.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Butaki Hlalele. I'm the Learning and Development Manager for Bridgestone. And just to say congratulations to running the entity so well. My question relates to the NSDMS. It's all good to say that we are working on it and we'll get things right. But the reality is the impact it has on us as organizations, it's really, really massive. You know, specifically in our case, we have submitted discretionary grants. One screenshot shows that we have applied. One screenshot shows that we haven't applied. And we have been trying to resolve these matters. So what is actually the teething problems? And secondly, what is the timeline that you anticipate to have the issues around the system resolved?
Thank you. I'm not sure, CFO, if you're going to delegate that to Mr. Moepi. Can I ask, CFO, for you to deal with the first question around the emails being sent on outstanding amounts or debt with regards to mandatory grants? Can someone just give a mic? Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. I'll just check with my team why you're not getting the response, but SARS makes adjustments. And then they send us a file of those that have received, that we have received more than we should have. So, as you know, that mandatory grants are based on the levy income. Now, if we have paid you levy income of 100 rands and SARS comes and says we should have paid 80, then the balance of 20 rands will revert back to you and say you owe us that. But in terms of the evidence, I'll talk to the team in terms of what we can provide so that you see it's not a merSETA, it's actually from SARS. I'll ask the CIO to respond to the third question.
Thank you. CIO, just in terms of time frames with regards to NSDMS 2.0, short and sweet, Mr. Moepi.
Mr. Adams, our plan is to have the finance module up and running by the end of this financial year. But however, the cause of maybe the Bridgestone situation is that we have a slight data quality issue where there are some companies that are duplicate. So that's an issue that we've identified, and we are working on merging the duplicate organizations so that the company will have one profile, and therefore all the applications will be on a single profile. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Moepi. Safe to say, we are in the process internally of testing what I would call the first phase of NSDMS. It's something that we did not do right the first time, so we want to make absolutely sure that we do it right the second time. I only have two chances. Where I work, there's two. There's not a third one. Third one, I'll be rendering myself unemployed, and I have absolutely no intention of doing so. So we will be, hopefully within the next month, also provide access to some of our stakeholders. We have assembled a pilot group that will also test the system, and only until such time they give us the green light. That's when we will release the system for use. I think there was another question, Mr. Mvete, that relates to the reasons for not approval. I stand to be corrected of discretionary grants.
Am I? Yeah. Oh. Thanks.
Can I ask you, when you respond, to just stand up? Sorry, Ms. Novete. I think because we using a hybrid system, people want to see on the other side who's talking to me.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Nico. Yeah, the reasons for non-approval of DG. I think we do have a criteria that we use and that we do publish, both in terms of our guideline and also criteria that we do use, which is linked to what our priority areas are, especially with regard to priority occupations and skills. So really, in short, the reasons by and large do relate to issues of capacity. If our regional offices do check and do and verify as to whether applicants have got the capacity to deliver for what they have applied. But also we do look at whether the application is addressing our priority areas, especially with regard to our priority occupations and skills. There are some other criteria also, things like, for instance, tax clearances, proof of registration under a particular law as that particular entity. But yeah, we follow our criteria.
Thank you so much, Ms. Novete. There is a question online that relates to the process of registering a company with the merSETA. I think that's an issue that we perhaps can take offline to give guidance on what process needs to be followed if you want to be registered with the merSETA. So I hope whoever asked the question has also left his or her contact details, and we will respond. We're opening up for the next round of questions right at the back. Any other hands? Thank you, sir. I recognize you. Any others? Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Would you please stand up if you don't mind, please? Thank you. I think there's something wrong with that mic. We can hardly hear you.
Good morning. My name is Danielle du Toit. We have been working for the SETAs for quite some time. Firstly, I would like to say thank you. And also that we are working hard and that the young South Africans are ready for us to work for them. And thank you for everything that you do. And we are just that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. There was another hand this side. Please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. My name is Mike Ramajwa. I come from the company called Ramajwa Pros. Mine, before I clap the highest for the unqualified audit report, CFO, I just wanted to understand, to say, how does it work with the AG that there are some outstanding for payments of the latter year, yet still the unqualified comes up. I need to understand that. It's for my understanding only. But where I was going to see is, with the agreement that has happened between merSETA and the TVETs, is it possible that also we can have that with a basic education where there are special schools like those who are having technical skills within them, that we can upskill them so that when they go out with a skill, and that relationship can help those who are at skills? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Perhaps if I can, before I forget, deal with your question with regards to basic education. We have started about, where's Mr. Mokotsan? I think 3 or 4 years with a pilot project when the, what do I call it now, technical schools were revived by the Department of Basic Education with and we call it a pilot project. And we have successfully, within some of those schools, managed to already produce qualified artisans that came through the basic education schooling system. And of course, we intend to, I always say, when the project is successful, we intend to expand to some of the other technical schools available. So we are working, and we have an agreement with the Department of Basic Education to assist in that respect. There was a hand somewhere in front here. Is there a mic in front?
Thank you. My name is Godfrey Tulani Mtembo. I'm also the SDF of my company. First of all, I'd also like to echo the accolades and your presentation holistically. However, I've noted with concern some of the things which I am not that happy with merSETA, and I've also heard to the CLO about it, and we tried the interventions. First of all, it takes too long to register a learner. I don't know what is the problem, because I think it started in 2019, whereby I applied in September the 16th, and the learner was only registered in 2020 on the 25th of March. I don't know why is it taking so long. Then secondly, this year I've registered the learner on the, I think it was in March, and up to now the learner is not yet registered. And we have tried several times sending the emails to merSETA, and this is CLO would send the emails, copying me as well, to see that at least there's something which is doing, but up to now is still in vain. Right, and that is a concern for me as to, I don't know what is happening there. But secondly, I don't know whether it's second or the third, is the payment. The payment is also, the tranches, it's also taking too long, because now I had to phone, and I don't know how many times I've called the CLO, and we tried to call the office and sending the emails, and it is a struggle as much as the CFO got a clean audit, but she's not getting a clean audit by me, because I think she must just up her socks and try to address these things, because they are really irritating. Because I mean, last time I was very much furious, hence I'm saying I've been working with merSETA, I think long time ago, I think it's 1999, if I'm not mistaken, and but I'm experiencing the West. Thank you.
question, and of course, I hope that you're going to be with us long after today. And we will, of course, deal with the issues that you raise, which is important issues. And then what we have referred to in my address is the concept of a one-stop shop, so that we are able to effectively deal with some of your issues, particularly with regards to learner registrations and payments. I'm not sure between Ms. Nomvete and the CFO who's going to deal with that particular question. I saw another hand somewhere please, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. I'm not sure if it's a question or a comment, or I'm not 100% sure where I'm placing this. Mr. Adams, you've been talking about a lot of pilot projects or testing groups for NSMEs or different types of new projects. Is there not a way for that to be broadened so that there's more people that can take part? I'm not sure who those pilot projects are or who these test groups are, but I feel there's a gap between what us as we stakeholders find and what these pilot groups are finding. And perhaps if we can open that up to the public to join or to take part, especially on the pilot projects where you produce funding, there's an outcome at the end. The gentleman there was mentioning the special schools. That's been on the agenda for quite a while. But we can't see the outcomes. We don't know what's the best practices from that. We would really like to learn from that. So if we can have more, I want to say open or public intervention, that would be really appreciated.
Thank you so much, Dr. Moore, especially when we do our evaluation studies. This is what you are referring. Is how do we, I know we make it available on the website, but maybe we need to display it much more prominent, and also perhaps look at feedback sessions that's going to deal with the outcomes of those evaluation sessions. Ms. Novete, CFO, can I have a mic there, please? Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, thank you, CFO, CEO. That was not a mistake. I wanted him to answer for that. I think making payments of 1.1 billion, we're looking at massive documentation. So if yours is missed, it's very unfortunate, and we'd like to apologize. But we want to, if you can, we can talk offline to understand. If you can talk offline to understand what the issues are, we will make sure that we deal with it. But there's a lot of, because we've got two types. We've got our normal service providers that we pay for services, like the people who do the sound checks. Usually those are easier to pay, you know, because it's just you submit an invoice. But in terms of DGs, the SLA has a lot of stringent requirements. So it could be that there are some of the requirements have not been fully met. That's why maybe there are some delays in payments. But CEO, I would like to look at these matters and we can talk offline. Thank you.
Thank you, CFO. There's another question from the audience online. In the rates, will private colleges be treated as TVET colleges in funding and support? And then, of course, what about private SDFs? Yeah, that's now one of those high-grade questions, and maybe I must be very honest up front. The nature of what we do as a SETA is mainly, do I call it now, work-based learning. That's what we do. We are not an institution where you can go and do a learnership solely in a classroom. Our programs requires a workplace. That's the first part. So our preference in the allocation of grants is towards companies that trains apprentices and learnerships, which is of a technical nature. And as we have said earlier in our presentation, that 75% of our funding goes towards apprentices and learners learnerships. That's 75% of our funding. I think what's also important to note is that we are guided, and I use the word guided, by the NSDP, National Skills Development Plan, which is aligned to the NDP. And it's quite clear in terms of the focus areas, and the focus areas within the NSDP is around public, higher education institutions, as well as public TVET colleges. So from if I may call it a hierarchical perspective, we do support SDPs, but I'm going to be very honest, it's most probably after we've looked at everyone else. In terms of the hierarchy that we get to private SDPs as well as private colleges. So there's support for them, but not to the same extent that we would support those, if I may call it, entities whom we are measured on. And it's not just about the measurement, but it's also to ensure, and of course, TVET colleges by its very nature, within our sector is feeders into our sector, and it just makes sense that we support those feeders that comes into our sector. But notwithstanding that, we have in the past, and I'm quite sure we will continue to support SDPs or private SDPs, but I'm being very honest with you, not to the same extent as we would when it comes to public institutions. Ms. Novete, I see you have the mic. You'll have to stand up, Ms. Novete.
Oh, it's on. Okay. No, just a quick one around the delays in registrations. And it's interesting that the gentleman does actually, talk about the fact that it is taking longer for us to do registrations, and we do sympathize with that process, because it does also affect us in terms of how rapidly we can report what's happening within our sector. But the simple answer to the registration issue, one, of course, is the challenges around the NSDMS itself, where we've had to put in a kind of an additional process in ensuring that what we eventually collate and are able to approve for registration of learners has become a lot more stringent. We've got a number of compliance reporting that we have to adhere to in terms of the department, of DPME. What is it called, by the way? DPME, Department of Monitoring and Evaluation. We've also got now a whole lot of stringent requirements that we have to meet in terms of even the Department of Higher Education and Training. So our registration is taking a lot longer because we have a lot more stringent requirements that we have to adhere to in terms of making sure that when we do register a learner, we have all those requirements received from our stakeholders.
Thank you, Ms. Novete. This will be the last round. I see your hand and I recognize you at the back, ma'am. Okay, I see your hand, sir, and I see yours as well. As I said, this will be the last round. Now, please don't ask a question that has been answered already, please, in the interest of time. Please, ma'am.
Good morning, Mr. Adams. I am Maurice from Skills Grow. I just had a question that popped up following Ms. Nomvete's statement. In terms of the NSDMS, I'm pleased to hear of the changes coming, but I think it's important to also just ask the question, what is merSETA's plan in terms of maybe internal capacity building for your staff in order to keep up with the demand in learner registrations, processing of payments, site visits, CLOs? What is the plan so that you're able to keep up with the demand?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. And hopefully see now, this could be considered abuse of the little bit of power that I have. Maybe the AA will assist us, particularly around increasing our capacity, because as you have heard, we have a lot more to do, and we have not increased our numbers in terms of employment to be able to cater for that. Please, sir.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Milian Sotolashe. I think I must also congratulate you guys about your achievement, your outstanding achievements, lest I become the black sheep of the house. Mr. Adams, I've got a concern with regard to the turnaround time of the issuing of trade test certificates from everywhere else, because the learners that have long passed these tests are still waiting for their certificates. And whenever you inquire, you write emails until to the end, but there's no concrete answers that are coming. Can someone help us out in this?
Mr. Vete will deal with that. There was one, this will be the last question, and I'm going to deal with the one question on the chat, and then we will move on to the next. Is there a mic? Do you have one?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Emil Jacobs from CISA Training Center. I don't know if the question is of a concern. We have a big problem in the training center to register our assessors and moderators. They've been registered. When we need to re-register them, the system kicks them out and say unknown. So we don't know if it's the system problem or is it us don't know what we're doing, but then we get the guys in from merSETA, they also battled. And I think this is where companies getting problems and declining of their grants, because it must be linked to the center with the SDP and the TTC. And then if we can't be registered in the system, their grants also will be declined in the line. Can they sort out the system that we can register our assessors and moderators, especially in the private sector, that they can upload themselves and that we can upload our assessor and moderator. I was assessor for 10 years, of more than 10 years, and then when I have to re-register, the system doesn't know me.
Thank you. I think they're all for you, Ms. Novete. Perhaps if you can deal with those ones, please.
The last one, I didn't quite
It has to do with assessor registration.
With assessor registration?
Yes, and challenges around re-registration and new registrations.
Oh, okay. Look, let me start. What was the other one? I think the other one was around certificates.
Yes.
The trade certificates, presumably, yeah. The trade certificates, we have to work with NAMB and the QCTO. And sometimes we do often find ourselves in a situation where that is another additional kind of process that is not necessarily completely in our control, in terms of ensuring that there are quick turnaround times in receiving trade certificates once we've made our, once we've made our submissions for our trade certificates. That we've got those two additional organizations that we work with in terms of their own processes in them issuing trade certificates to us. It's an issue that we are in discussion with them about how we can kind of make the turnaround times a little bit quicker between the three organizations. We've had a problem in terms of, a bit of a problem in terms of data that was moved from the old SMS to the NSDMS, and that has also affected things like some of our old assessors who were registered and being re-registered on the NSDMS when they want to renew their assessor status. That has affected us. I think we must just be open about that, Mr. Adams. But it's all part of the process of some of the challenges that we are hoping that we are going to resolve through the reconfiguration of NSDMS 2.0. But sir, if you do have an issue, you know you can just contact the quality assurance unit directly via your regional office to pick up on any individual issues that we have, because we still have a manual backup system if our SSS and moderators run into problems.
Thank you, Ms. Novete. Yes, the last one, the finalizing of the April 2022 DG applications. Question is, when are you finalizing those applications?
Okay, those are the ones that, yeah, we've had two, hey? Yeah. So we closed, the first lot closed in April, end of April, and then we had a second window, which closed August, end of August. We have to have finalized that process by the end of November. There is, otherwise, as Mr. Adams says, some of us will just have to start preparing for new jobs. Our accounting authority is not going to allow us not to have completed that process by the end of November.
Thank you, Ms. Novete, and thank you for raising some of your concerns. Believe you me, some of the issues that you have raised are some of the issues that keeps me awake. I sometimes respond between 2 and 4 in the morning, and of course some of my colleagues don't take kindly to receiving emails between 2 and 4. I learned it from the chair. I normally get an email from after 12. So I have to be awake after 12 in the event the email come through. I think we are, and I want to give you the assurance, stakeholders, that we are really working hard at resolving NSDMS, our system. I think we have, through an analysis conducted by our current provider, realized it was worse than what we thought. And it needed, to some extent, in some areas, a total revamp. But I hope, when we get back to you next year, you will have, and you will bear testimony to a different experience with regards to the system. And of course, most of the other processes are related to that particular system. It's becoming increasingly time-consuming, I must also say this, to deal with the evaluation of applications, particularly in the light. Previously we would have a billion and we would get applications for 2 billion, so it's easy to allocate. Now if you have 1.5 billion and you get applications to the value of 7 billion, you want to try and be as equitable in your distribution and to accommodate as many of our stakeholders as we possibly can. And sometimes it does take a bit of time, and perhaps we need to explore internally how do we find ways to fast track some of those processes. So once again, appreciation for the positive comments, and of course also for the tough questions that we need to deal with as an organization. So I would humbly request that you give yourselves a round of applause for engaging with us in this fashion. It now gives me great pleasure to welcome our special guest, Dr. Mwebi, who initially thought she was running away from us, only to find that she's running towards us. She used to be at the TUT, and she oversaw our initiatives within TUT, and she has now moved to NMU, only to realize we do more with NMU than what we did with TUT. Dr. Mwebi is the Deputy Vice Chancellor responsible for research, innovation, and internationalizations at the Nelson Mandela University in South Africa. We have a long relationship with Dr. Mwebi in a former role as Deputy Vice Chancellor Research Innovation at the Tshwane University of Technology. She has also been the Director of Research at the University of the Western Cape and was the Executive Director of the South African Research Chairs and Centers of Excellence at the National Research Foundation. Thandi was the founding director of the Southern African Systems Analyst Center, an initiative of the Department of Science and Innovation, the National Research Foundation, and the International Institute of Applied Systems Analysis. She currently serves in the Leadership Council of the Africa Node of the Sustainable Development Solution Network, the advisory board of the French South Africa Scholarship Program, and is a council member of the African Institution of Mathematical Sciences. Thandi holds a PhD in medical cell and development biology from the University of Cape Town, a management diploma program certificate from the University of Stellenbosch Business School, and a postgraduate qualification in tertiary education management from the University of Melbourne, Australia. She also holds a certificate in business sustainability management from the University of Cambridge in the UK. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Dr. Mwebi.
Well, thank you very much, Wayne. Is it morning still? Yes. Good morning, everybody. I also acknowledge the chairperson. It was lovely to listen to you. And I have actually a very strong, an old relationship with merSETA, even beyond TUT. Remember our time at the NRF as well, when we were starting conversations on scarce skills support. But I'm here to talk about our partnership at Nelson Mandela University. I must say that when I said I'm coming to this AGM and I was asking for information internally, everyone wanted to be involved and to be included, and it ended up with this long presentation. So I had to cut it because everyone wants to showcase, and there's a very positive relationship that we have as a university with merSETA, and we truly appreciate that. As already introduced, thanks Wayne, my name is Thandi Mwebi. I come from Nelson Mandela University, and I'm just going to talk about three things really, just about Nelson Mandela University for the stakeholders who may not necessarily know us, and also about our partnership and what we call partnership success factors. And when we look at all of our criteria for partnership success, merSETA Nelson Mandela University partnership ticks all the boxes. And we would like to take this forward. It's one of the flagship partnerships that we have locally. And I'll speak about a few examples. As a university, we're situated in Gqeberha. It's no longer Port Elizabeth, it's Gqeberha. And it's in the Eastern Cape, of course, on the coast. And we have got 7 campuses. And these campuses are largely in Gqeberha, but there's one that's at the George campus, the one on the top, on the bottom left for you, it's bottom right for me. That's the campus at the George campus. And that George campus is responsible for all the biodiversity related work and mostly postgraduate studies there. And it's one of the beautiful campuses, I think, in South Africa. The other campuses are in Gqeberha, as I said. There's a main campus with a tall building, and then next to it, there's the medical school campus. We're very proud of our medical school. It opened 2 years ago. We are now on the 3rd cohort of students that we're going to take in 2023. And then there's an engineering campus, and next to it, there's one at the Bird Street in Gqeberha, which is more of the humanities and within the art precinct of Gqeberha. But we are the only university with a dedicated ocean sciences campus, which makes us a very strong leader in ocean sciences and related technologies. And I'm mentioning this because the ocean sciences campus interfaces a lot with the engineering faculty, and that's where a lot of skills development take place, and that's where our most active merSETA partnership occurs with the engineering faculty. And lastly, that's the campus also in Gqeberha in Summerstrand. And the university has got 7 faculties. As of 2022, we've got 30,000 students. And most of those students come from previously disadvantaged backgrounds, and they've got NSFAS funding. And we track them, and we find where they go after graduation. So there's a lot of success. I mean, we could pick a number of stories about the students who come out of the university and land up throughout the country and abroad. The university has just completed its 2030 vision statement, and I just want to highlight the vision and the strategic focus areas that we would like to be distinctly African university that is of service to society. So this bodes down well with where our students and what profile we want to bring out of the students as they leave Nelson Mandela University. But also the strategic focus areas, you'll see at the top there, humanizing, innovative learning and teaching. So we want to look at a student holistically in a human form, and not just as students who come to learn at the university and earn their degrees. So we take a lot of effort in understanding student needs and and we learn from the students as well. And also impactful research. These partnerships such as merSETA help us in that endeavor as well, in terms of impact of research and impact of our scholarship to the communities. There's a strong emphasis on community engagement, and it reflected on how we engage with our partners and our universities, which talks to the transformative engagement. We believe that this partnership is one of the transformative and transformational partnerships of the university. And this is the last one about the university. The university has got 6 strategic research themes. Oceans and coastal sciences, which lends itself because we're taking advantage of our geographical location. So it brings us into a lot of success in the oceans and marine sciences. Social justice and democracy, and that social justice and democracy underlies everything that we do, including the awarding of bursaries and research funds across the institution. And I'm not going to read all of them. I just want to highlight how we take seriously our research themes and into our being as a university. And we call these strategic trajectories, but these are the large projects that the university is looking into invest in the near future and also invest disproportionately. The medical school, as I mentioned, together with the medical programs and the medical technologies that would come out of medical science, but also the ocean sciences, as I indicated earlier. We are in a large project of revitalizing the humanities. What that means is that in whatever science, high-end science that we do, we must also emphasize the importance of humanities in it. That you may have these medical devices and health innovations, but they must speak to the people, and the people must be able to utilize them and also to engage with them. So we are in a project of engaging and revitalizing the scholarship in humanities, and also strengthening the African footprint. As a dynamic African university, as we would like to see ourselves, it's important that our strengths within the continent are nurtured and are enabled. So it's a big project of the university. In fact, this year we had a large delegation across the continent looking at strengthening and initiating new partnerships. Of course, we guided also, or we are in line with the global policy frameworks and the national frameworks, the SDGs, the Africa Union Agenda 2063, but also the National Development Plan here, and also all the skills development needs that we need to invest for in the country. Then I'm going to talk about these partnerships that I mentioned earlier, that these are vibrant, strategic, and sustainable partnerships. There's no point in having a partnership on paper, but it doesn't impact lives. It's not as vibrant as we would like. So one thing I want to highlight is a partnership supporting the ecosystem, supporting the community, supporting the students, supporting the university, but also supporting the partner, and also investing in the long term under that, the monitoring and evaluation and learning from successes and failures. I think we do that quite well with merSETA and sitting in these advisory boards and looking at changing systems when necessary. The monitoring and evaluation is really strong in all the programs that I've looked at. And the second point is about strengthening research relationships and research systems. What we've seen from the merSETA partnership is that when we engage our partners internationally, for example, the merSETA partnership has enabled that. You will see in some of the examples that I'm going to make that some of the activities that we've done, we've had, for example, with Germans, with Europe, are based on the foundation that has been laid by this partnership. So the strengthening of the research relationships beyond the partnership is important. And also we budget for partnership building because it helps us so that we can engage in meaningful partnerships and implementing processes and procedures that sustain the partnership. The review of governance arrangements. There's no point in saying we're doing this the way we've done it in 5 years ago when the environment has changed. So the review of governance systems becomes very important, and the revisiting of the terms that were set in the beginning. So the nature of support that we receive from merSETA is firstly human resource development in all its facets, from young right up to established academics within the university, capacity development and enhancement, not only skills, but yes, skills being core, but also enhancement of capacity of individuals as well, and that we acknowledge. Infrastructure support, mobility support in terms of enabling students and academics to be able to reach other parts of the world, and also what we call information brokerage, which is just dissemination of information to communities in a form that they can relate to and they can consume. And there's a big transformation focus, as you all know, our situation in the country. If we do not do this, then we will sit with the same problem 10 years from now. So I've got a case study that I want to make examples about what I've just said. We have a center in our engineering faculty called Advanced Mechatronic Technology Center, AMTC, and this is focused on development of skills for the automotive industry. And this is purely based, I would say, without contradiction, that is purely based and enabled by the partnership with merSETA. The center started in 2003, but it was the beginnings, together with the automotive industry in the Eastern Cape, and we initiated international collaborations. But by 2010, when merSETA came in and kicked in, everything changed. We had a merSETA chair in engineering development, which was later changed because of the changes in the landscape, rather than being called a chair, because there's limitations in being called a chair, but to be opened up. And because of this, we were able to attract a lot of interest from other partners as well. And this project is ongoing and has got a lot of successes. With that initiation of the project, we initiated the solar car project in 2010, and there's a lot of renewable short courses and qualifications, and the industry in the Eastern Cape benefits a lot from these short courses and qualifications. And also the center's model for engagement is based or is watching carefully the changing higher education landscape. As I said earlier, that we've got infrastructure support, we've got human resource development support, not only focusing on the students, but also focusing on the academics themselves, and also the funding for internal stakeholders and external stakeholders. Then from 2015, I mean, this is purely now based on merSETA of 2015 right up to where we are now, with the merSETA chair that started in 2010 and changed over time. We've had a couple of projects. I'll speak maybe to one or two. The Rimfasmark community project is one that is really close to my heart. When I listen to the story, I actually want to go to the Northern Cape to see what's happening there, and I'll tell you shortly about that. And the other one right at the end with that flight control is also an exciting project where a student has been able, is doing his PhD now or is completing, and has been able to develop a software to be an autopilot and have a remote to control the flight. And I'm told it can fly from Gqeberha right up to Richards Bay unmanned. But they don't do that because they say they don't want to lose their flight. But it can actually do that because they sit inside and they just remote control it. So these are the exciting things that are happening. And this has purely been enabled by merSETA, and I think we are not profiling them enough. And because of this attraction and also capability that has been built, there's also the Siemens Training Center. It's all built because people have got interest, and now they want to invest into Nelson Mandela University and build a service that we use not only for internal stakeholders, but also, as I said, for the automotive industry. And coming to the automotive industry, these are project examples. I'm not an engineer, as you heard. I'm a medical cell biologist, so I don't have the concrete details of the technical details of it, but what I know is the impact that these projects have done, not only to the students themselves who graduate with mechatronics degrees, but others then graduate with master's and doctoral studies from the university through this work. And they go on to build their own initiatives outside the university. I must also say that the university is very supportive of translating research into commercialization. I mean, we've got a number of deals that have gone out through the innovation office at the university. One of them from the arts, for example. You know the brand Maxhosa that was built and supported from the university, and it's one of the exited deals that are now doing their own thing. We've got a couple of those, and we've got Gamma Tutor, for example, which is also from the university through the engineering faculty, and they use this center uses the knowledge that is generated from this project to be put into the Gamma Tutor through career days and through tutoring and so on. The engineering one in the solar project of the Northern Cape, the Rimfas, Rimfas project. The Northern Cape project is a lady who, if I may tell the story, Wayne, is a lady who lives in the Northern Cape near the Namibian border and didn't have anything there and runs it's a guest house, but it's not properly or sufficiently supported, and would go to the river, the Orange River, to get the water and then walk up in the heat and walk up with these buckets. But now we've built a station there, and we've been able to put solar panels through the partnership that we have, and we've been able to support, now it's got a food garden and is able to support the communities. So it's a beautiful project that we should be profiling. As I've already told you about the autonomous full-size test platform that flies. And then we are very proud to have received the remotely piloted operating certificate. We are the only university and the first university in South Africa to legally operate drones or to receive that that certification from the Aviation Authority. It's work that has happened over 3 years, and we've recently received the certificate, and we're very proud to say that this also would never have happened if we did not have this kind of partnership. And we're looking forward to working with this capability now for Earth observation, for example, for looking at illegal trafficking along the coast of the continent, because now we can fly the drones. I'm told that if you want a drone in Gqeberha, and you want a drone to fly maybe over tall buildings, maybe you have a leak or whatever, you have to pay 50,000 rands. And now the university is not going to be able to do that. We're going to do that ourselves, and we're going to be able to provide a service from the university so that we can sustain this technology as well. And then there are others, like 3D printing. Our students designed and built themselves their 3D printer. And these are models that are happening all the time at university, and we're very proud of our students. And these are mechatronics students, which is a 4-year degree, and they leave the university with this capability. And other engineering projects. And for R1, I would like to highlight is the one with the self-propelled ocean glider. This works with our Ocean Sciences campus, and we've got a research chair in Ocean Sciences who is working on marine food security and requires these gliders to get to the sea. And these are built entirely at the engineering faculty, and now we use them for research purposes. Together with the partners that come and join us, we are able to utilize these resources. Instead of hiring gliders expensively from other parts of the country or parts of the world, we are now able to build our own. There's a whole lot more. I'm not going to be able to mention all of them. Project examples, I've told you about the RIMFA-SMARC project, which is off-grid renewable solution for a rural community in the Northern Cape. And we also have, as I said, information brokerage, translation of what we have, which serves as inspirational and motivational. So we publish these booklets, and we profile our students who do amazing things. And these are some of the projects. So just to close about the center, I know I've spoken a lot about this particular center. So we are now having a lot of partnerships, of course, with government, parastatals, with partnerships with industries, especially in the Eastern Cape, and also on skills partnership for training people in companies. And there are other types of support. I see there's some stuff that hasn't come through. In the Faculty of Education, merSETA supports our diploma in technical and vocational teaching, and the engineering program has got an engineering development program. I must say we still struggle with getting female students into the mechatronics program. It's an ongoing challenge, but we do try to support them. There's one more, I think that the slide that didn't come out is we've got a chair, research chair in youth unemployment and employability, and that chair is solely funded also and supported by merSETA. And there are a lot of communication and short briefs that the chair publishes frequently. And I just would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you and to applaud this kind of partnership. There's a lot of future opportunities that we would like to take with merSETA, particularly in the changing world and particularly in our distinct research areas. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Doc. I have once said to my colleagues that sometimes what we do very badly is the merSETA. We have not as yet learned to celebrate. In communications department will take heed. We really need to start celebrating, but I think we want to fix NSDMS first, and then we celebrate everything at the same time. Once again, thank you, Dr. Mgwebi. As I indicated earlier, our relationship, not just with yourselves, but also with your institution, has been most fruitful to date, and we, of course, look forward. We look forward. I normally use the term, we're not one of those SETAs who want to be in and out. We're in it for the long haul. So we hope that we would continue this mutually beneficial engagement. So once again, our appreciation for making time to spend with us. May I now, ladies and gentlemen, hand over to our Deputy Chair, Ms. Ruth Ndlokotse, who's also the President of SAFTU, to do the vote of thanks for us. Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wayne. Thank you so much for our distinguished guest for attending this virtual platform, and those that are present here today. We really appreciate yourselves, the contributions that you made, the comments that you made in ensuring that you built this entity. They are very much grateful. Thank you so much to you, Dr. Mgwebi. We truly thank you for your keynote speech, and we thank the CEO and his team for merSETA, and also for receiving the 22nd unqualified audit report. To our stakeholders, we again thank you and trust you. You gain immensely from this meeting. You are welcome to engage with us after this AGM while we are having lunch. The merSETA National Annual General Meeting is officially closed. Thank you so much. Thank you.